Now, I know I'm behind on this show, so you can start writing out all your comments below this video right now if you'd like to, but I finally caught up to Season 3 of Gotham. I watched the entirety of the season, and I'm trying to sort of, get back into this show. I want to get caught up. I know we're at the end of Season 4. We're almost at the season finale for the show, so I'm going to try to get caught up and do a full review of Season 4 as well, but I'm caught up to Season 3, and so this review is for those of you who, like me, have been inundated with lots and lots of different things to entertain you, and your Gotham viewing habits may have lapsed a little bit. And the question that you might have for me is, should I go back into Gotham and watch Season 3? And my answer to you is yes, you should, but you probably shouldn't binge it as quickly as I have been binging it. It is addictive, and you are left with lots of cliffhangers at the end of every episode, but it's kind of a mess as well. And I think a huge part of the problem with Gotham and any network television schedule out there right now is the sheer amount of episodes that have to be crafted, and this is true for The Flash and Arrow and Legends of Tomorrow. I think a little bit less so with that show, but a lot of these shows, they have too many episodes for the creators to kind of grapple with, and they've got a huge assortment of cast members that they need to keep happy, and they've got massive contracts and all kinds of demands, and the writers all need to get paid. It's just a lot of sort of efforts to keep the machine of these shows in operation, and I think it hurts the overall sort of narrative impact that a show like Gotham could really have. There are things that I absolutely adore about this show. I think that it looks phenomenal. They got the style and the flow of the city. It looks like something ripped right out of the comic book pages, which I really appreciate. They've got some great effects to make the New York City on-location shoots that they actually endeavor to put into this show look terrific. They gloom everything up a little bit. Sometimes they throw rain across the streets, and there's lots of nice glossy nighttime shots. And all of the interiors are, they're a little bit campy and they're a little sort of out of time, but it all works. I even love the fact that they all drive sort of retro 70s cars in here. I think it's great. There's a lot of really cool sort of production design choices in here that really work and really make the show kind of stand out from the rest of the stuff that you would see on network TV. Now, of course, this is the story of Batman before he becomes Batman, and there is a great emphasis on the relationship between Bruce Wayne and Alfred, and I really like this dynamic. Alfred, I think, is one of the strongest characters in the show. He is like a moral center. He is absolutely trying to teach Bruce Wayne everything that he has learned from his military background. There's a lot of, sort of creative leaps that they've taken with this Alfred character that make a tremendous amount of sense in the Batman mythos, even if it sort of deviates a lot from the comic book lore. I like that a lot. Detective Jim Gordon is played by Ben McKenzie, and he's kind of the lead of the whole show, and he's pretty solid as our Jim Gordon. I find that we rely on him punching his way through obstacles far too often in the show, though. I mean, they just, in every episode there is him beating up on bad guys and punching bad guys, in slow motion punching bad guys, and sometimes he points guns at people and he has to fire, and he's in major jams and calamities all the way through. I think he's buried alive. I think he's frozen. He's drugged. He's gets some viral infection type thing that turns him into this really massive creature. Every episode he is just in harm's way and at the most severe sort of end of the idea of peril that's going to befall him. So it becomes a little bit like you're on this constant roller coaster ride in his shoes where you're screaming at the top of your lungs, and it's a little exhausting, and I don't think that does the character any real service, because Detective Gordon becomes Commissioner Gordon, and I think it's time, and maybe we get a bit more of this, to show that this cop that wants to do right is capable of more than just punching and shooting his way through every jam. He needs to kind of show a real leadership and some empathy, I think, for what some of the other characters are going through. Some ways to show that he can outsmart people rather than outpunch people, and I think that would be more interesting for the character. I don't mind his performance. It's just a bit one note. I really like Donal Logue as Bullock. He is the immoral center of the show, but he also finds his way to be a good cop, which is interesting. And he actually gets some real opportunities to have some big responsibilities in this season, which I think he takes on with his usual sort of shrug and sense of humor. And Donald Logue is just such a great actor. I just love him playing against almost everybody else in the show.
That's because I'm always in a room full of idiots.
Overall, I like the show. I mean, we get tons of great moments with Hugo Strange, and we're inside Arkham Asylum, and that Jerome character who's sort of the Joker, sort of not the Joker, comes back. The thing that you gotta understand about this series is that nobody really dies. Nobody really dies in comic books, but man, in this show, nobody really dies. And because there's so many episodes, within a season, you'll see a character die and then come back and be resuscitated. There's all kinds of, sort of mystical, magical, scientific kind of gunk that brings people back into the fray. And it's cool, but it does get a little tiresome, and it does sort of remove a lot of the stakes as well. And, part of the equation is that a lot of these characters are going to live on and become real enemies to Batman, so they can't kill them off. But it kind of paints the show into some narrative corners that I wish it wasn't in, and it really wouldn't work that well if it was just littered with red shirts, that they were constantly just killing, because you are interested in some of these bigger iconic characters, the Mr. Freeze and Catwoman, and and all the actors kind of do a good job at creating these performances, but we have a real absence with the fact that there is no Batman. It's now a very cluttered city. By the end of season 3, it's a very cluttered city with supervillains, and some of them have fantastical costumes, and they've got it down. They've got the comic book kind of vibe down, but there's no hero. The superhero is not there, and Jim Gordon is, try as he might, he's not a superhero. He's just a cop that gets beat up a little bit too much and beats up a little bit too much. I still dig the show, though. I'm curious to see how season 4 unfolds. I know that Bruce Wayne becomes much closer to becoming the Batman, so I'm excited to see where that goes. The end of season 3 kind of leads into the fact that we're about to see some huge sweeping changes. There's a lot of scenery chewing. There's a lot of resuscitation, and and characters that you think, okay, they're done with that character. They're never coming back. Poof, they're right back in the show again. There's a lot of that. Some eye roll moments for sure. But overall, I was impressed with Gotham. It held my interest. I wish that they could make less episodes and make each episode count a little bit more. But still, it's a solid 7.5 out of 10.